Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. This bulletin is coming to you live from the Joy 99.7 FM studios. Kokomlemle in Accra. Our digital address GA0993341. Also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. Affiliates across the country, including Sunshine FM in Boko, Jubilee FM in Keta, Pad FM in Damango. It's on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by UMB Bank, UMB Speed Up, Digibank, Let's Go, SuperSem, Build Your Dream, and Telesol 4G, just a touch. And coming up, mother of a 13-year-old girl who witnessed shooting of two policemen at Gomwa Budumburam says her daughter and a 3-year-old boy remain traumatized by the incident.
Because
well, she says the 13-year-old girl, her situation is worse because she cannot eat, she cannot sleep at night.
Meanwhile, a medical expert calls for psychological treatment for the two children.
They will need to go through therapy. The moment we forget to deal with this aspect, the scar is going to be with them for a very long time, and the consequences could be worse than we are experiencing now.
Also in this edition, state prosecutors amend case against Men's Gold CEO Nana Pia Mensah, bringing initial charges of 13 up to 61. We'll bring you details. Accommodation woes at University of Ghana. We hear from some students and parents who say they are left with no choice than to buy beds at exorbitant prices.
We have now got a room. I'm just coming from the room. I'm just not happy because there are 4 in a room. We pay 3,000 cedis each. The response from the authorities is that if you don't like it, find another alternative.
And we have sports.
And Black Queens coach Mercy Tegu is guarding against complacency ahead of their second leg Olympic Games qualifier with Gabon this afternoon.
And later in the bulletin,
I want the people to come with a big expectation because this time around we're going to take it different level. We're going to do something different.
Countdown is on with just 3 days to the 10th anniversary celebration of Adum Praise. We'll hear from one of the headline artists, Kweku Jesse, who is promising a charged atmosphere on Friday. We have all that and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. Stay for details. And the mother of a 13-year-old girl who was present during the shooting of two policemen at Gomwa Budumburam says her daughter and a 3-year-old boy who was in the convenience store close to the crime scene are still traumatized by the incident. She says her daughter is now unable to sleep at night as the boy also cries anytime he sees strangers. She says they've not received any psychological assistance many days after the incident. She's pleading for help to get her daughter back to her previous state. Listen to her.
My the view of a phone color, the via small boy of a voyage color. I got a home. I TV, my free of a phone. Amy Vaffy have a phone. If I get a home, a TV, my fan.
Well, she says that the children who witnessed the incident are still terrified and traumatized about the situation. She says the little boy, a 3-year-old boy who also saw what happened, right now when he saw us arriving here, he just rushed into the room and then started crying. That alike no okpom the share the number one.
No okpom the share cover, no okpom the share cover. Tayo okpom if you have of one, I get home.
I'm going to just allow me.
No much shama crohana quick of okpom Tano bomb my revaco, Alabono. I see I get home.
Well, she says anytime the boy sees someone, people who are not too familiar to him, he will just rush to the room and then start crying.
Because Matalo Dodomo, Mamudumu, Mananaka Womo.
Well, she says the 13-year-old girl, her situation is worse because she cannot eat, she cannot sleep at night. She's always terrified. She's still terrified by the situation, the incident that happened here the other time. Well, she says yesterday she sent her to go and buy some medicine. She said she cannot go and get it because she's scared, and she says she doesn't want to sleep in darkness. She always wants the light to be switched on before she can, sleep properly.
Because the viewer Yantok we had him. Nana come on, Nanako, Toman to Gafi, about Nitamiano for Pepecana, Adabama Dolafialo, Adabama Jitapana, the Via.
Well, she says she needs some assistance for the children because they're still traumatized about the situation. She's calling for help and assistance. If they can be relocated from this place, they will be excited because her children are still in the same environment and are terrified and are still scared by what happened last week Thursday.
The view on the view boy or blona, Kaka the Via Glado, he police in Pomama, the view, young Pomasa, who got a Majima Takuno, Junior Pakuku, the Madakukano, the Gofia de Via. Well,
she is expressing concerns that police officers have been killed in a situation like this, and a man like this, and she's saying that she fears that the same killing could be extended to her children because they were there, and then the killer or the alleged killer actually saw them, that they were present when the incident happened.
You have Maxwell Agbegba interacting with mother of the 13-year-old girl who saw or witnessed the crime or witnessed the shooting of these two police officers at Gomoa Bujumbura. Maxwell Agbegba joins us on the line with further details. So Maxwell, first off, did you see these two children and how are they faring?
Yes, Emma, we saw the two of them. In fact, we appreciated the issue better when we arrived at the residence of the 3-year-old boy and then the 13-year-old girl. When the 3-year-old boy saw us at the entrance of their residence, he rushed back into the room, entered the room, and we are told by her mother that he started crying when he rushed inside. We are told by the mother that that has been his, that's how he's been reacting to strangers ever since the incident happened. The 13-year-old girl also, we saw her. You could see clearly, even without wearing any medical lenses of the sort, you could still tell that this is someone who is equally traumatized by last Thursday's, incident. In fact, the convenience store where the incident itself, happened, the owner of that shop actually is locked. A man that I spoke to has been telling me that the woman who sells in there is equally, scared about the situation. Some business owners in that area, in that community as well, also have not opened and they are not doing business there any longer. One man that I spoke to who owns a barbering shop there says he has been advised by his father to stay away from the shop for some days before he resumes work. So that is the mood in the community. It still looks like there's still some kind of fear. The people who witnessed the incident, this 13-year-old girl and then a 3-year-old boy, are still traumatized by last week Thursday's event.
And they are yet to receive any form of assistance from the police or the state or anyone for that matter.
Yes, when we interacted with the mother, and she said they are yet to receive any form of assistance, be it psychological, be it relocation, they are yet to receive any form of assistance.
Well, but beyond the call for assistance, though, did the mother also appeal for protection? Because we understand the family is harboring some fears.
Exactly. She wanted some form of protection for the children because she says they were there when the incident happened, and she's sure that the prime suspect and his accomplices saw them there because they were there when the incident happened. And she's scared that, what happened to the police officers. If police officers are killed in a manner like this, to use her own words, she said her own children can be killed like fowls, her own words.
But you spoke to some residents also who want intervention of the state. Why is that?
Yes, the resident that I spoke to was concerned about what he described as criminal activities that go on at the refugee camp here at Gomoa Bujumbura. He says that place has become a haven, for all form of criminal activities.
You heard Maxwell Agbagba back to Gumwa Bujumbura. I'm interacting with the mother of the 13-year-old and the young boy that witnessed the killing of the 2 police officers last Friday, and they've been calling for some form of assistance. But meanwhile, a medical practitioner is urging the relevant authorities to immediately offer psychological treatment for the 2 children. Dr. Jaxis Jansen warns the children will be scarred forever if the authorities fail to do so. He spoke on Newsfile last Saturday.
Clearly, listening to the 13-year-old on radio, I could pick clearly this girl is traumatized. What has to happen is that the 2 of them need urgent medical attention, and the details of that will mean involving clinical psychologists. They will need to go through therapy to really get them out of their current state. What you described is perfect. They are all traumatized. And the moment we forget to deal with this aspect, the scar is going to be with them for a very long time, and the consequences could be worse than we are experiencing now.
You heard Dr. Justice Jansen. He's a medical practitioner calling or urging the relevant authorities to immediately offer psychological treatment for the 2 children. We're still working the lines to be able to speak to the Director General of Public Affairs at the Police Service, ACP David Eklu. Once we're able to get him, we'll get some answers as to what the police intends to do about this situation. But whilst we wait, let's move on to some other stories. State prosecutors have pressed news charges against CEO of defunct gold dealership firm Men's Gold Ghana Limited, Nana Appiah Mensah. ASP Sylvester Sari, who's leading the state's prosecution today, asked the Accra Circuit Court hearing the case for an adjournment to file the new charge sheet. Mr. Mensah is currently facing 13 charges, including money laundering, unlawful deposit taking, sale of minerals without license. The new charge sheet filed includes multiple charges of defrauding by false pretense, bringing the number up to 61. Court correspondent Joseph Akable was there and joins us in studio with more on this. So, Joseph, first off, why is the state adding more charges to Nana Appiah Mensah's charge sheet?
So the reason being that there are different offences that have been indicated, and so previously the initial charge sheet, this is the second time they're actually amending it. The first time when he came in, 7 charges were filed against him. This was increased to 13 subsequently, and we are now at 61. If you recall, it had been indicated previously that there were 16,000 complainants with an amount of 1.6 billion cedis being involved. This time around, the complainants are 13. The amount of money involved is 1.1 million cedis. The reason being that we have the 13 individuals have been specifically mentioned with the amount involved also stated. And so some of the names in there, for instance, there is Volkan Basler, an amount of 350,000 cedis is mentioned. There is Kofi Twenebo, an amount of 100,000 cedis. Godfred Odroyebo, an amount of 94,500 cedis. There is also Evelyn Trefo, an amount of 170,000 cedis. And so what the prosecutors have done is that when they mention each person complainant, they mention the amount, the charges defrauding by false pretense, then the other charges relating to unlawful deposit taking and sale of minerals without licenses are all added for each. And so that is what has led to the number increasing from 13 all the way to 61.
But how did the lawyers of Nana Appiah Mensah react to this fresh charges filed against him?
In fact, according to the state prosecutor, he had already discussed the move with them before the case was actually called. And so when ASP Asari spoke in open court, informed the judge that they had both agreed that indeed the new charges were going to be filed. And so the court should take a date. And so that is by way of the information that we've been able to gather from how they feel about this particular charge.
So was he in court today?
Nana Appiah Mensah was in court himself, yeah.
How did he react to it personally?
He was okay. He sat, in fact, interestingly, he was sitting just by me before proceedings started. His lawyers had come over to indicate to him that due to some processes that were ongoing, the case, nothing substantive will happen today. They will have to take a date. And so he was calm throughout. There was a case that was called preceding that, and he was laughing in between that particular proceedings. And when it ended, he left the premise of the court. The difference, again, in terms of how he was brought in this time around was that this time around he came on his own in a private vehicle, a white 4-wheel drive previously he came in a police vehicle, but there was still a police pickup car that accompanied him to the premises of the court.
Unfortunately, you couldn't tap him and ask him when he's going to pay the customer still. But when is the court hearing this case?
The next date is October 26.
Okay, Joseph Akable, thank you very much. That's our court correspondent bringing us details of that case in court today. Now, the minority in Parliament is demanding action from government to restore livelihoods for over 25,000 Ghanaians who they say have lost their jobs in the closure of banks and microfinance firms. Addressing a media briefing, Bolgatanga MP Isaac Adongo said the situation is now a full-blown financial crisis that should be addressed.
Anecdotal evidence suggests that about 4,500 people lost their jobs as a result of the closure of the universal banks alone. Another 4,000 just lost their jobs as well due to the closure of 23 savings and loans institutions and finance houses, while a whopping 17,350 people are estimated to have also lost their jobs as a result of the closure of the 347 microfinance institutions. It is true, therefore, that the crisis has created deep problems not only for banks, businesses, and depositors, but also created a threat to the livelihoods of many of our people.
Now, he adds that if the NDC were in power, no bank would have collapsed, insisting that the MPP is to be blamed for the collapse.
There are unanswered questions regarding how we spent 23 billion Ghana cedis of taxpayers' monies just to collapse financial institutions, create massive unemployment, and turn entrepreneurs into idle hands. Unfortunately, instead of answers, the Vice President has adopted his infamous deceptive trait of looking elsewhere to blame for he and the President's incompetent handling of what has become a full-blown crisis. His attempt to blame the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, for the collapse of the banks is rather laughable.
You have Bolgatanga MP Isaac Adongo. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo is at that press conference and joins us on the line. Joseph, 25,000 Ghanaians, they say, have lost their jobs. How are we able to verify these figures, did he say?
It's the same question we put to the minority MPs. And Casey Latofo, who is the ranking member on the Finance Committee, says they took the figures from the Microfinance Association in terms of how they've put out with regards to the job losses, as well as details on the bank losses and the jobs that were taken. And then they did an estimation on their own based on information that they got about how many people are employed in each of the financial sectors. And then when they did the tallying, they saw a situation where up to 17,000 people lost their jobs as a result of the microfinance closure and also closures, and also 4,000 people with regards to the savings and loans, and 4,500 people with regards to the bank, bringing it to the 25,000 plus.
So they talk about the situation becoming a full-blown financial crisis. Did they proffer any solutions?
A number of them, repeating some of those that John Mahama put out when he did his social media interaction, including setting up an authority to handle issues having to do with microfinance scheme. He says they are backing a recommendation that there should be a full-blown inquiry into what exactly happened, and that they, the NDC, have a track record that they avoided the collapse of the banks when they were in power, and when they get back, they would ensure that they roll out some of those strategies.
You had my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo bringing us details from that minority press conference held a while ago. We'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. But away from financial crisis, let's talk about accommodation woes at the University of Ghana, because some parents and students who've been thronging the university have bemoaned the difficulties in securing accommodation even as the new academic year approaches. It is estimated that over 9,000 fresh students of the university are stranded as they cannot find accommodation on the campus or in nearby hostels. Joining us is learning that this year 1,970 bed spaces were made available online for both the residential halls and the private hostels out of the 11,000 students offered admissions. Listen to some of the students.
We came to school and then we were asked to go to various hostels, the private hostels, and then when you go there too, there is no accommodation. Right now, the only way that I can get accommodation now is by buying beds. That is what we are finding it difficult to buy there, especially female beds. And then now, most of us we have to pet our friends.
Maybe I'll get a room. So when we went, there was a lot of people there, and there was a queue. And then later they said we should write our names, and that they will call us. And up to now, they still not called.
Getting a room has been a very big hill, because you go everywhere, they say it's full, you have to wait, this and that and this and that. I've been trying. You can't get a room anywhere, in any hostel on campus. It's a very big struggle. They said we should wait until next week.
Though it's very stressful that I'll be leaving from home, coming here all day and stuff, but mothers are telling me you can come and purge and stuff, but I don't think that's the prescribed way, because
you heard some fresh students of the University of Ghana who've been stranded due to this accommodation problem. Let's go live now to the campus and speak to my colleague PSA Nanaya Osafo, who has been on campus since morning. So PSA, how many halls have you been to and what did you find?
Yes, MFR, I've been able to visit 10 halls, including private hostels, across the 3 sections of campus. That's main, diaspora, and the private hostel section.
Now, did you meet some you actually met some frustrated parents today. What have they been telling you about the situation?
Yes, here on campus, the question of the day, I'm sure as many of our listeners can relate to, is will I get room accommodation for my wards? The numbers are not as much as witnessed in earlier days, yet the visible parent section ranging from a dozen to hardly any across the halls that I was able to visit. In official, many are hoping that official residential registration will end on Friday. They can have more spaces so that these parents can have their awards in there as at 3rd September 2019. For those in the private hostels, some parents expressed relief at finally securing rooms for their awards. Also, there were a few. One I spoke to in particular was concerned about the quality of facilities and doubts on the adequate survival of the awards for the next 4 years within such a region. There was also complaints on the lack of proper customer service, language, how they had to queue for long times before they had any response from authorities, and the stress of queuing.
So we all had to struggle. We were here since last week, Monday, I queued for 7 hours. I'll say for 7 hours before I got a form to fill. I think it's not good enough. So it's not so much about Bunny, but it's about the university management. Now we have now got a room. Today is Tuesday, from last week, Monday that I came here. And the allocation that has been made, I'm just coming from the room. I'm just not happy because there are 4 in a room. We pay 3,000 cedis each. And the facilities are just inadequate. Because we have been given the room, it means the children can come and start using the room. But several things are not available, So we are just unhappy about the facilities, which is not adequate.
Well, I'm sure you've already lodged some of these complaints to the authorities here. Have there been any responses whatsoever from them?
Well, the response from the authorities is that if you don't like it, then you find another alternative. You don't have to take what they are offering.
Now, PSA, briefly though, you've also been speaking to the hall tutors or masters, or did you even meet them? What have they said if they've spoken to you?
Well, many declined to speak, but I was able to secure conversations with one of them, Mr. Selassie Steven, the hall manager for Bunny Hall.
I think when the portal was open, within some few minutes, I learned all the rooms were taken. But we have some rooms still. We give some to the university, and we have some here that we give on our do it manually here. So since we've been working on that, people come here and they seek for rooms, and we give them accommodation. So we've been doing that since Monday.
So for Bunny, you say the situation is under control?
Yes, now the place is fully booked.
It's time for sports.
So you have the hall masters for Bunny, and speaking to my colleague PSA Nanaya Osafo, who is at the University of Ghana campus. Now, our students and parents remain frustrated over these accommodation issues. NDC parliamentary candidate for Ayawaso West Wuogon, John Dumelo, is promising to help deal with the situation. He joins me on the line with more on this. So, Mr. Dumelo, this situation came to your attention when you were campaigning. How serious is this problem of lack of accommodation on campus?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. Indeed, it came to my attention about 3 weeks ago when I was visiting the campuses. A group of students drew my attention to the fact that they were not getting accommodation on campus, especially with the private ones. And so I started working on them, and I can say that so far so good. I have personally managed to help some of them get accommodation.
About how many of them?
So far, about close to 30. Most of them in the private hostels.
Okay. But you had stated also that you will liaise with school authorities to resolve this issue. What specifically do you seek to do?
So last week I went there. In fact, the whole of this week I've been there as well, yesterday and today and last week, speaking to most of the hall tutors to see how best we can solve this situation, because the students are stranded, the parents are worried, and most of them is not really about money. It's about the fact that they just need somewhere to stay. But they have assured me that since Friday is the end of the registration, hopefully some students will not show up, and then we can have some vacant beds, and all these stranded students can be able to occupy them.
We're grateful for your time. That's John Dumelo. He's the NDC parliamentary candidate for Ayawaso West Wuogon, speaking about the lack of accommodation situation at the University of Ghana, Legon. The midday news will take a quick break, and when we return, with just 3 days to the 10th anniversary celebration of Adum Praise, we'll hear from one of the headline artists, Kweku Jesse, who is promising a charged atmosphere on Friday.
I want the people to come with a big expectation, because this time around we're going to take it a different level. We're going to do something different.
My name is Kwame Sefakai, and most of you know me as a media personality, but and anytime with a UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, and get the time to do what you love most. Download the UMB Speed App from your Android, iOS, or Windows phone today. Call 0302-633-988 for more information. UMB Speed App, Digibank, let's go.
Kremasa, Ghana, so we correct medicine pa. A yamikosi super. Me a super medicine ankasa. Because our job no enye better. They won't see how beautiful and high quality your work is. That be what them they use believe you. That be why me too. It be only super cement at they use. Cement mu cement. Cement papa pa. Inti me crimes in ina from because super. Because me the super cement and DVD ra.
Super cement is designed to ensure that your buildings stand strong for generations. Build with Supersem Cement. Build your dream. Build.
Ago, my people, the Electoral Commission announces that the exhibition of the Voters Register comes off from Tuesday, 10th September to Tuesday, 17th September 2019 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. All those who registered from the 2012 up to 2019 registration exercises should go in person to their polling stations to check if their names and particulars have been properly captured in the register. Go with your voter's ID card to facilitate fast checking of names. If you have lost your ID card, you should still go and check. Go to the polling station and have all your complaints resolved. Help ensure a clean and credible voters register by helping to remove names of deceased relatives. Come along with burial, death or obituary notice to help clean up the register. Let us help clean up the voters register to ensure free and fair election. Remember, the exhibition of the voters register comes off from Tuesday, 10th September to Tuesday, 17th September 2019 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily.
Let's do sports now on the midday news. Benedict Owusu has the very latest.
Yes, it's match day for the Black Queens as they take on Gabon in the second leg Olympic Games qualifier at the Accra Stadium this afternoon. Now, the Queens will be hoping to make the third round of the qualifiers after a 3-0 win over the Gabonese side in the first leg last week. Now, despite going into the game as favorite, Coach Mercy Tego is guarding against complacency.
It's never a done deal. We don't want to leave any stone unturned. Even though we've gone to the away and won 3-0, we still need to work extra hard to win handsomely at home. The people have a record. They were beaten by Congo in their own backyard. They also went out there to beat them 3-0.
So Mercy Tego is coach of the Black Queens. The game is at 3 p.m. and MFI, you have to be there. I'll make sure all the ladies in this house, will be at the Accra Stadium to support the Black Queens. But the Ghana Football Association has just released a statement regarding the extraordinary congress, which will happen this coming Thursday. And what they want to tell the football community is that, pursuant to the GFA Executive Committee decision at its meeting held on Tuesday, June 5, that was in 2018 at the M Plaza Hotel, Accra, there are all persons implicated in the Anas Aramea or Anaz's expose on football titled number 12 should step aside until the GFA Ethics Committee decides on their conduct. Therefore, members are being reminded that the directive is still in force and should be respected.
Thank you very much, Benedict. We'll get more later on in sports. And just before we talk about Adum Praise, we have a communication from the police about our first story involving that 13-year-old girl who needs psychological assistance. We are told that a clinical psychologist from the police hospital is being dispatched to the area to offer the necessary support. And he stormed the music industry with a voice many described as a thunderous one, with hits such as Asida, Yebebre, Enyema Ding, and many more. With just 3 days to this year's Adum Praise, one of the headline artists, Kweku Jesse, is promising an electrifying atmosphere. Nancy Emefa Jadosi has more.
He was on stage at last year's edition, making it his 4th appearance on that stage. His dance moves,
keep up and dance. Shake your body, shake your body. Yes,
his booming voice, and his energy about a few of the things you should be looking out for. Not forgetting the many hit songs, the praises, the worship, these and many more, plus the charged atmosphere, are what he is promising.
We're going to have a wonderful time with the Lord this coming Friday at the Parents' Door. Like the Lord will do something new. It won't be the usual thing. By this time around, the Lord will surprise people who will come over. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have an awesome time with the Lord.
Don't miss.
You can't miss it. It's happening this Friday at the Perez Dome, and tickets are going for 60 Ghana cedis. Do get yourself a ticket. And just before we go, many of you are talking about the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, and already Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa, Dr. Kwabna Opuni Frimpong, have been speaking about it, and they're raising concerns about the situation in South Africa. When you say a prayer, let's say a prayer for other nationals in South Africa. I am Emefa Pau. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good afternoon.